how do you stop people emotionally dumping stuff on you? You know, the stresses they're going through, their marriage problems, their girl problems, their work problems. It's called emotional dumping. It can cause so much stress, and most of all, it can drain you. Today, we are joined by Counselor Njoki, who's going to equip us with tools on how we can handle emotional dumping. Counselor Njoki.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good, thank
Looking
you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Very
I feel
nice.
good.
No, very nice to have you. Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
You know, on the topic of today, emotional dumping. When you think about it, how does it look like?
First, when you just think about dumping, you know, a dump, think of a dump site. So somebody picking things and dumping there. So now put emotional, and it's like somebody's taking emotional things, and especially negative things, and dumping. So imagine how even a dump site looks like. So imagine now when it's filthy and smelly and all the bad things. Yeah.
You know, I thought about it. When you think about an emotional dumper, you never think it can be you or it is me. But think about the times when you're maybe before, I know you're a counselor, you have the tools right now. When you're going through something, you call a friend and you go on and on. Next week, you're still talking about the same topic, on and on. I came to learn that most of us are emotional dumpers and we don't know.
In fact, most of us don't know until sometimes somebody points it out to you. And sometimes it could just be a friend, a relative, or even your child. And they say, haven't we talked about this issue for so long? So at that point, then you could have a check and say, let me go back to myself and wonder what is really happening. And many times people will be able to differentiate between emotional dumping and just a normal conversation where somebody is feeling frustrated and they just want to talk.
I think that's a good point, because then we need to point out the difference between dumping and venting. If I call you to vent, how does venting look like compared to dumping?
So venting is naturally very healthy. Everybody in their life will get frustrated at one time. They'll want to talk about issues that are weighing them down. So it's just because talking about that particular situation and how you're feeling. Many times I call my girlfriend and my partner and I tell her, I just want to vent today about what has happened today. So venting is very healthy because, again, you don't want just to keep on piling up emotions.
No.
But dumping on the other side is very toxic, because this is a person who is just probably, the emotions are just negative over and over again, continuing with the same conversation over and over again, day in, day out, tomorrow, next week, but one. And then they'll be talking, they're playing the victims.
Exactly.
They're playing the victims. It's always me. It's always me.
It's never them.
It's never them.
It's never me. It's never them.
The other person is the problem, and they will never take responsibility. So a person who is actually dumping, if you disagree with them, they don't want to hear that. In fact, they'll start catching feelings. But a person who is venting, they'll actually look for solutions with you. They're willing to listen to possibilities of what is there.
Right.
And most times, venting is just then. It stops and people move on. If it comes another time, it will just be probably on a different dimension. And it doesn't drain you at all. It doesn't. In fact, it's a good conversation.
Njoki, in the family setting, how are we dumping on each other? Because I know there are people whose parents call them, and as a child I'm thinking, why is my mom telling me these things? Or why is my sister telling me these things?
And it's there's actually a name for that. There's something they call emotional abuse or parental abuse.
Is it?
Yes, there's actually a name whereby you're feeding your emotions from your child. It's actually supposed to be the other way around. You're supposed to feed your child's emotions. Remember, your child is not your peer.
My child is not my peer.
Your child is not your peer. And if you need to talk to somebody, talk to an adult or go to a therapist.
Right.
So when you're having, and I've seen this in a lot of marriage issues, especially where spouses are having conflicts, a parent will talk, and especially ladies will talk about their spouse to their daughter or their son. So it kind of starts bringing that child into a marriage they are not supposed to be. And there's something about subsystems. A family is a system as a whole, but to be able to appreciate that there's a subsystem, there is a marital subsystem, there's parental subsystem. So being able to differentiate and say, this is my marriage, this is my husband, dealing with our issues as husband and wife, and separating our children. So one of the interesting thing is we learn our expressions of emotions from our families and how to handle our maturity emotions. And when we've grown up in relationships or families where dumping has become so much, it affects us in adulthood. So what happens, you realize that such people will be over dependent emotionally in relationships. They will not keep relationships. Most of them actually attract very abusive spouses. And yes, and some of them are just not able to be intimate. They don't know how to handle that emotional space. So it actually, for parents who are actually dumping on their children, just know that you're working against your children for their future.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
And it's very sad, you know.
That's good to know.
Yeah, in counseling, many people come, and when they come, we're very big on genogram and family of origin. Most of their issues are from their families. It's not their adult life that is affecting
history.
It is the history that is affecting them.
Councillor Njoki,
yes.
Speaking of which, I know as we don't have a lot of time, if you could equip us with tools. I know the people who are listening have an idea if they are emotional dumpers, and the point of all this is for us to work on ourselves. But then, if people are dumping on me, how can you give me tools to help me stop people from dumping the emotional baggage and everything on me? What tools can you equip us with?
We can do it 2 times. Remember when we started this conversation, we said we have been dumpers ourselves. So how do we prevent ourselves from being dumpers?
By one, stopping being dumpers first.
So yeah, how do you stop myself? So I can start by journaling. Let me start with myself. Let me start by journaling. Let me express my feelings in writing. I can start by meditating. Just going through my day at the end of the day and finding out. Can also be real with the situation and find my responsibility
in the whole
of this thing.
Go back. So starting with journaling, why is that important?
Journaling is important because you're able to express your thoughts, your feelings and actions. And chances are that when you do that, the next time such an event comes in, it's already a learned moment. And you cannot, journaling is very good because you can always pick it up 6 months later, 1 year later, 3 years later, and you can be able to evaluate your growth.
Right.
Journaling is very important. And of course, one of the best is, of course, going to a counselor, a therapist. It's very important.
And that's the other narrative we need to change, that, you know, a counselor is equipped to give me tools on how I can then deal, compared with calling my friend who's then thinking, okay, here we go again.
Yeah, and your friend is not your counselor.
No.
She's your peer.
And my child is not my counselor.
No, she's your child or he's your child. But counselors are equipped, they're professionals to do that job.
That's good.
Yeah, the other one, in fact, if anything, you keep on harming that person and the relationship. So the other aspect is, how do we stop people from dumping
on us?
On us. The first one is, can you be sure of who you are? Because many times we don't want to say no because you want to look good.
And I want to please people.
You want to please people. And just realize that you're not the savior of the world. Separate your responsibilities and others' responsibilities.
This is where mine starts and ends?
Yes.
This one you're on your own?
In Yako.
Even if you're my child or my mother, my sister, that is your burden to carry.
And that helps people not to become over dependent on you. They're able to find solutions within themselves. The second one is, detach yourself emotionally and physically.
That's hard.
Yes.
How do you detach from, say, your mother or your siblings?
How you detach yourself, how you'll be able to know if you've detached yourself emotionally, is after this conversation, how does it leave me feeling? If it leaves me feeling frustrated, I'm feeling bad, angry, I can't sleep, then you're very much emotionally attached. Too much. So you need to separate your feelings from this person's feelings and say, this is my mother's feeling, this is my brother's feelings, I don't need to carry them, these are my sister's feelings.
And they don't need to influence your day and
they don't
night.
need, and we don't need to agree. So physically on that aspect of, you can tell somebody when they call you, but today I have 45 minutes. Are we able to talk in that 45 minutes? Especially if you've noticed that this conversation, there's a way it can go on for 3 hours. So already you've limited yourself, you've focused, you don't want, and that's why most of our sessions will be about 44 minutes to 1 hour, because beyond that, what you're able to compact
yeah.
Boundaries, the best and most effective is
set boundaries,
very clear boundaries. This is where I end and this is where I start. There's no in between.
How do you do that?
First and foremost, timelines. How often can we talk? What can we talk about? I can teach you to talk to me without you really defaming another person or victimizing another person. Also, setting clear boundaries is talking about, last week we had this conversation, this is what we talked about, what have you done about it?
Exactly, because I was just about to say, you know, then you can tell the person, okay, you've mentioned to me this thing over and over, but what solution do you have, or what do you propose as a solution for this?
Yeah, and most people who emotionally dump on others, they don't want solutions. They just want a pity party. Yeah, they just want a pity party. So of course now when you create such boundaries, that person just realizes there's no this space for playing pity party and being helpless.
Right.
So somehow also you're helping the other person in a way.
Very true.
Yeah. Another way is also to talk about, just tell this person, you know what, I can hear what you're saying and I'm your friend. And I can empathize with what you're going through, but where we have reached now, I think you need help from another professional. From a professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is very helpful, because I'm thinking if somebody is watching and they feel they've been emotionally dumped on, I hope this helps them start setting boundaries, because I feel if you continue letting people dump on you, what's the worst that will happen? What's the worst?
Hey, all sorts of things will happen. You can go into depression, there's stress. Some of the sicknesses they're calling chronic nowadays are actually stress related. But I think also to tell the viewers that it's not an easy journey. You have to be very intentional about it. And once you start, you will of course rub people in the wrong way, but just be consistent. With time, people are going to respect your stand.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Joki.
Thank you so much.
Those are very heavy pointers, and to the guys who are listening, I know they'll find them very useful. Thank you so much for your time, be it journaling, boundaries, working with a counselor. Very important for us to embrace that. How can they reach you? How can they talk to you?
Oh, we are at Stawi Wellness. That's a partner with my partner Sylvia at Stawi Wellness. I think that's the easiest one to get to on Facebook, yes.
Then what I can do on Facebook, Stawi is just Stawi.
Stawi Wellness.
But of course, the bottom of this video, what I can do, I can put your contacts.
Yes.
If anybody wants to reach out,
yes.
I hope more and more people continue to embrace working with their counselor or working with a counselor on the issues they're going through. And if you're an emotional dumper, please, let's also consider the feelings of other people. And for the people who are being dumped on, see how you can put boundaries. It's good for your own wellness, and for the other person's wellness, let's see how we can find ways to work on ourselves. My name is Christine of Supermamas. We've been here hosted at Pride in Azul. Please make sure you come and check it out. You will absolutely love it. See you in our next video.